Chapter 36. A true Confucian is born in Changshu County. A worthy man becomes master of ceremonies in the temple of Taipo. Now in Changshu County of Suchu Prefecture was a village called Unicorn Sash Village. Here lived over 200 families of farmers. The only man who did not work on the land was Mr. Yu, who studied and passed the prefectural examination during the Qing Hue period, and then remained a licentiate for 30 years teaching in the village school. Unicorn Sash Village was 5 miles from Changshu, but, except to take the examinations, Mr. Yu never went to town. He lived to be over 80. His son, who was also a teacher, failed to pass the examinations, and when he reached middle age without an heir, he and his wife went to a temple to beg the god of literature for descendants. He dreamed that the god handed him a slip of paper bearing the sentence from the Book of Change, "The gentleman cultivates virtue by good conduct." So when Yu's wife conceived and in due course gave birth to the future Dr. Yu, he went back to the temple to offer thanks and named his infant son Yu Te, which means cultivating virtue. At 3, the child lost his mother, and his father took him to live in the household where he was teaching, starting his schooling when he was 6 years old. When the future doctor was 10, Mr. Chi of Unicorn Sash Village engaged Dr. Yu to teach his son, and the employer and tutor hit it off famously together. After teaching there for 4 years, Mr. Yu fell mortally ill and on his deathbed entrusted his son, then 14, to Mr. Chi. "Your lad is not like other children," said Mr. Chi. "When you are gone, I shall make him my son's tutor." He immediately wrote his name on a card and carried it to the library to pay his respects to the new teacher, taking his 9-year-old son with him. After that, Dr. Yu taught in Chi's household. Changshu had more than its share of men of letters. There was a scholar at this time called Yun Ching Chuan, who excelled in writing poems and essays in the ancient style. When nearly 18, Dr. Yu begged to study poetry with him. "You're a poor scholar, Master Yu," said Dr. Chi, "and poetry alone will be of no use to you. You must learn some skill by which you can make a living. In my youth I studied geomancy and learned how to tell fortunes and select sites. I'll be glad to teach you all I know, for it may serve you in good stead some day." Dr. Yu paid careful attention to his instructions. "You should buy a few collections of Paku essays to study too," advised Mr. Chi. "But then later, if you pass the examinations, you'll find better teaching jobs." Acting on his advice, Dr. Yu brought some Paku essays and studied them. At 24, he passed the prefectural examination. The following year, Mr. Yang of Yang Family Village, 6 miles away, engaged him as a tutor at 30 taels a year. He proceeded to his new post in the 1st month, and returned to Mr. Chi in the 12th month of the New Year's holiday. 2 years passed. "Your father arranged a match between you and the Huang's daughter," said Mr. Chi. "It is time you married. You had a dozen taels left from that year's pay, and by drawing another dozen in advance, he had just enough for his marriage." Mr. Chi lent the young couple a room, and at the end of the honeymoon, Yu went back to his post. 2 years later, he had saved nearly 30 taels, with which he was able to rent a 4-roomed cottage near Mr. Chi and hire a servant boy. After Yu's return to his post, the servant boy walked a mile to the market every morning to buy the fuel, rice, oil, flour, or vegetables needed, then returned to help his mistress. As a result of childbearing, Mrs. Yu's health failed, but a tutor's pay was not enough to buy medicine. After a regime of 3 meals of gruel a day, however, she gradually recovered. The year that Dr. Yu was 32, he found himself without a job. "How are we to manage this year?" asked his wife. "Don't worry," he replied. "Ever since I started teaching, I've made an average of 30 taels a year. If my contract in the first month was for 20-odd taels only, I'd feel anxious. But by the 4th or 5th month, there'd always be 1 or 2 extra pupils or some compositions to correct to make up the 30 taels. On the other hand, if the contract happened to me for a few taels more, I'd be very pleased, thinking, 'Good, I'm doing better this year.' But then as sure as fate, there'd be some emergency at home to use up those few extra taels. So you can see all that happens to us is predestined, and it's no use worrying." Some time later, sure enough, Mr. Chi came over and told Yu that the Qing family in a village at some distance wanted him to select a burial ground. Taking his geomancer's compass with him, Yu exerted himself to the best of his ability to find a suitable graveyard. And when the location had been fixed, the Qing family paid him 12 taels. He then hired a small boat to take him home. It was about the middle of the 3rd month, and the banks on either side of the river were covered with peach blossoms and willows, while a light wind helped the boat along. Yu was in the best of spirits. After a while, he reached a quiet spot where a man with a boat full of cormorants was fishing. But as Yu leant out from his cabin window to watch, he saw another man on the bank opposite throw himself into the river. Yu started in horror, then hastily bade his boatman save the fellow. They pulled him aboard, sopping wet, but fortunately it was a mild day. Yu made him take off his wet clothes, borrowed a dry suit for him from the boatman, then asked him into the cabin and inquired why he had tried to take his own life. "I come from these parts and work on the land," was the answer. "I tilled a few fields for a landlord, but he tricked me out of all my harvest. Then my family fell ill and died, and I had no money for a coffin. I could see no reason to go on living. Death seemed a better way out." "This proves your filial piety," declared Yu. "Still, you mustn't think of dying. I have 12 taels here, which have been given to me. I cannot let you have them all because I need money to live on during the next few months. But I'll give you 4 taels, and when you show it to your neighbors and relatives, and tell them your trouble, I'm sure they will help you. Then you will be able to bury your father." He unpacked the silver, weighed out 4 taels, and handed them to the other, who accepted the silver and thanked him. "May I ask who it is who has been so good to me?" said the stranger. "My name is Yu, and I live in Unicorn Sash Village. But we mustn't waste time talking. Make haste to dispatch your business." After renewed thanks, the stranger left. Dr. Yu proceeded home, and in the second half of that year found another teaching post. At the end of the winter, a man was born to him, and because Mr. Chi had helped him in so many ways, he called the child Kan Chi, thanking Chi. He taught for 5 or 6 more years until he was 41, when there was another provincial examination. "I am sure you'll pass high on the list this year," said Mr. Chi, when he came to see them off. "Why do you say that?" asked Dr. Yu. "You've done so many secret acts of kindness." "What secret acts of kindness have I done, uncle?" "Well, for one thing, you put your whole heart into finding that family a burial ground. And then I've heard how you saved that fellow whose father had died. These are all secret acts of kindness." Dr. Yu smiled. "Good deeds should be done so unobtrusively that none but the doer knows of them," he said. "Since you have heard of these things, uncle, they aren't secret acts of kindness anymore." "Yes, they are," insisted the old man. "This year you will pass." On his way home from Nanking, after taking the provincial examination, Dr. Yu caught a cold and fell ill. The day that the results were published, heralds came to the village and Mr. Chi accompanied them to Yu's home. "You've passed, Mr. Yu," he announced. Ill as he was, Dr. Yu consulted with his wife as to which clothes to pawn, then asking Mr. Chi to tip the heralds and see them off. In a few days he recovered and went to the capital to hand in particulars of his career. On his return, his friends and landlords brought him congratulatory gifts. He set his affairs in order and returned to the capital to take the metropolitan examination, but did not pass. As luck would have it, Mr. Kang of Changshu County, who had just been appointed provincial governor of Shantung, asked Dr. Yu to accompany him from the capital to his post to do some secretarial work in the Yamen. They were soon on the best of terms. One of the Yamen secretaries, Yu Su-shin, struck by Dr. Yu's learning and character, offered to become his pupil. He shared a room with him and consulted him on all matters. This was just the time when the emperor was seeking for men of talent, and Governor Kang decided to recommend someone. "This is a great court ceremony," said Yu. "I am thinking of asking Governor Kang to recommend you, sir." "I am not good enough for that," replied Dr. Yu with a smile. "And if Governor Kang wishes to recommend someone, the choice is up to him. To ask such a favor is hardly a sign of high moral character. If you don't want an official career, sir, wait till you receive a summons from the emperor. You may be called for an audience, or you may not. But by refusing to take office and returning home, you will demonstrate your superiority even more clearly." "You are wrong there," retorted Yu. "You want me to ask for a recommendation, yet refuse to take office if I am summoned into the emperor's presence. That would show lack of sincerity both in requesting a recommendation and in refusing to become an official. What sort of behavior is that?" He burst out laughing. After over 2 years in Shantung, Dr. Yu went back to the capital to take the examination, only to fail again. Then he took a boat back to the south and returned to his teaching. In another 3 years he was 50. Asking a steward named Yen from the Yang family to accompany him, he went once more to the capital. This time he passed, was placed in the second rank in the palace examination, and recommended by the authorities for membership of the Hanlin Academy. It so happened that all the other successful candidates over 50 or 60 had represented themselves as much younger than they actually were. He was the only one who had given his true age as 50. "This Yu Te is an elderly man," said the emperor when he saw the record. "Let him be given light duties." Accordingly, Yu was appointed a doctor of the Imperial College in Nanking. He was in raptures. "Nanking is a fine place," he said. "It has mountains and lakes, and it is close to my home. As soon as I arrive, I shall send for my wife and children, and our family will be reunited. This is better than being a poor academic." He bade farewell to his teachers in the capital and to the officials from his own district. "When you reach Nanking, sir," said Mr. Wang, an old reader of the Hanlin Academy, "you will find that one of your students is a man called Wu Shu, who showed himself a devoted son to his mother and is extremely gifted. I hope you'll do what you can for him." Dr. Yu agreed to this. Then he packed his baggage, traveled to Nanking, and sent a man to Changshu to fetch his family. His son, Kang Chi, now 18, accompanied his mother to Nanking. After calling on Libationer Li of the Imperial College, Dr. Yu took his seat in the hall, and all the students came to pay their respects. On one of their cards was the name Wu Shu. "Which of you gentlemen is Wu Shu?" asked Dr. Yu, going out to receive them. A short man stepped out from the group. "I am, sir," he said. "Well, at the capital I heard of your exemplary filial piety," said Dr. Yu, "and also of your great talent." He bowed to Wu again and begged them all to be seated. "Your scholarship is supreme, sir," said Wu Shu. "We are very lucky to be privileged to learn from you." "I am a newcomer," replied Dr. Yu. I shall look to you for guidance in everything. How many years have you been to this college?" I will tell you the truth, sir. Since my father died when I was a child, I stayed in the country to look after my mother. With no wife and no brothers, I had to see to our daily food and clothes myself. So while my mother was alive, I could not take the examination. When I was unfortunate enough to lose her, Mr. Tu Xiaoqing of Tianqing paid all the funeral expenses. Then I studied poetry under Mr. Tu. "I once saw a collection of his poems on Yi Su Shin's desk," said Dr. Yu. "He showed extraordinary brilliance. Is he here?" "He lives in one of the riverside houses by Lucky Crossing Bridge." "There is a Mr. Chuang, too, who was presented with Lotus Lake by the emperor. Does he live by the lake?" "Yes, he lives here, but he doesn't receive many callers." "I mean to call on him tomorrow," said Dr. Yu. "I could not write these Paku essays," continued Wu Shu, "so when I became desperately poor and looked for a teaching job, I failed to find one. Then I had to buy a few essays to study until I learned to write them myself after a fashion. After that, I sat for the examination and passed, and then my respected teachers saw fit to place me first in the first class and make me a salaried scholar. Actually, my essays are merely second-rate, but I always seem to come first in the poetry tests. Last time one of our teachers tested the 8 students of 8 counties together, and I was first of the 8. That is why they sent me to this college. However, I am too conscious that my essays are unsatisfactory." "I have no patience with writing Paku essays either," replied Dr. Yu. "That is why I have brought no essays today, sir. When I have recopied my poems, I will bring them to you with my notes on old texts and other miscellaneous writings for your criticism. You must have remarkable gifts. By all means, let me see your poems and compositions in the old style, and I will read them carefully. Has your worthy mother received posthumous honors?" "She is eligible for honors, sir, but because I can't afford the Yamen fees, I have kept putting the matter off. That is most remiss of me." "We must delay no longer," declared Dr. Yu. He called for his inkstone. "Write an account of the matter, Wu Shu," he said. Then he sent for his clerk. "Make haste to draw up a statement of Mr. Wu's filial piety so that we can send in a written report," he ordered. "I'll be responsible for all expenses." The clerk assented and left. Wu Shu kowtowed his gratitude, and the others also thanked the doctor on his behalf, then took their leave. Dr. Yu saw them out. The next day he went to Lotus Lake to pay his respects to Chuang Xiaoqiang, but Mr. Chuang did not receive him. He went then to the riverside to call on Tu Xiaoqing, and this time he was admitted. When he mentioned that his grandfather had been a pupil of Tu's great-grandfather, Tu dressed him up as an uncle. After some conversation about the past, Dr. Yu described how he had just called on Mr. Chuang, but unfortunately been denied admittance. "He doesn't know who you are, uncle," said Tu. I shall call to tell him." Dr. Yu then took his leave. The following day, Tu went to Lotus Lake and found Chuang. "Why didn't you receive Dr. Yu yesterday?" he asked. "I am through with all officials," replied Chuang with a smile. "Though his rank is low, I was reluctant to meet him. He is quite different from the common run," declared Tu. "There is nothing of the pedant or successful palace graduate about him. For loftiness of character, he can be compared with Po Yi and Liu Hisi Hue, or at least with Tao Yuan Ming. You will see this for yourself when you meet him." Hearing this, Chuang returned Dr. Yu's call, and they immediately became the best of friends. The doctor valued Chuang's air of tranquility, while Chuang admired the doctor's genial kindness. They became lifelong friends. Half a year later, Dr. Yi decided it was time for his son's wedding. The lad was betrothed to one of Mr. Chi's granddaughters, who had been Dr. Yu's pupils. For in this way, Dr. Yu could ally himself by marriage to the family in which he had been tutor, to show his gratitude to Mr. Chi. The Chi family sent the girl over to the college for the wedding, together with a slave girl, and only then did Dr. Yu's wife have a maid at her beck and call. After the wedding, Dr. Yu decided to marry the slave girl to his steward Yin, and the latter brought 10 taels to pay for her. "You'll need to make bedding and clothes," said Dr. Yu. "Let's assume I've made you a gift of 10 taels and take the silver back for your own use." The steward kowtowed in thanks, then left. Soon it was the 2nd month, when a plum tree with red blossoms which Dr. Yu had planted the previous year after his arrival began to flower. The doctor was delighted. He bade his family prepare a feast and invited Tu Xiaoqing. "Spring is already here, Xiaoqing," he said, as they were sitting under the plum tree. "I would like to see the plum blossom along the river banks. When shall we go for an outing, taking wine with us?" "I was thinking the same thing," replied Tu. I would like to invite you and Chuang Shao Kuang for a day's excursion." As he was speaking, the 2 other guests came in. One was Chu He Sin, the other Yin Chao. They both lived at the entrance to the Imperial College, where they had studied for many years. Dr. Yu greeted them and asked them to sit down, and they declined to take places above Mr. Tu. As soon as they were seated, wine was served and they began to drink. "At the beginning of spring, you ought to celebrate your birthday, sir," said Chi He-sun. "The presents you receive will last the whole season." "Yes, let us send out a notice for you, sir," suggested Yin Chao. "My birthday falls in the 8th month," replied Dr. Yu. "How can I celebrate it now?" "That makes no difference," said Yin Chao. "You can have one birthday in the 2nd month and another in the 8th month." "What an idea," cried Dr. Yu. "A fine fool I should look. Drink up, gentlemen." Tu also smiled. "I have a favor to ask you, Xiaoqing," said Dr. Yu. "I have received a request the other day from the Prince of Chuangshan's household to write an epitaph for a virtuous lady who took her own life when her husband died. And I have 80 taels of silver here, which they sent to thank me. I want you to write the epitaph for me, and to take the silver to prepare for our outing to enjoy the blossom." "Can't you write this epitaph yourself, uncle?" asked Tu. "Why make it over to me?" "I'm not as gifted as you are," replied Dr. Yu with a smile. "Take this and see what you can write." He produced from his sleeve an outline of the lady's life and bade his servant give 2 packets of silver to Mr. Tu's boy. Returning with the silver, the servant announced, "Master Tang is here, sir." "Ask him out here," said Dr. Yu. The servant handed the silver to Tu's boy and went in. "This is a nephew of mine," said Dr. Yu. "When I came to Nanking, I left him my house to live in. That must be the reason for his visit." Master Tang came into the garden, bowed and sat down. After some polite conversation, he said, "For the last half year I've had no money, uncle, so I've sold your house." "That's all right," replied Dr. Yu. "If your business was poor, you'd have to sell the house to feed and clothe your family. But why come such a long way just to tell me this?" "Since selling your house, we've nowhere to live, uncle. I've come to ask you to lend us some money to rent a few rooms." Dr. Yu nodded. "Of course. Since selling it, you've nowhere to live. Well, luckily, I have 30 to 40 taels here. You can take that back with you tomorrow to rent some rooms." Master Tang said no more. When the feast ended, Tu took his leave. The 2 other guests stayed behind, and Dr. Yu came back to keep them company. "Sir, is this Tu Shaoqing an old friend of yours?" asked Yin Chao. "Yes, an old family friend. He is very gifted." "I hardly like to say this," said Yin Chao, but all Nanking knows that Tu was once rich, and is now lying low here because he has squandered his fortune. He tells lies to swindle money out of people, and is a thoroughly disreputable character." "Why do you call him a thoroughly disreputable character?" "He is forever taking his wife to taverns. Everybody laughs at him. This simply shows what a romantic he is. Naturally, vulgar folk cannot understand him." "That may be true," said Chu Hisian, "but next time you're commissioned to write something, sir, don't give it to him. He doesn't sit for the examination, so he couldn't possibly write anything good. I'm afraid he may damage your reputation. There are many students in our college who have passed the examination. If you ask their help, sir, they won't want any money, and they'll produce good compositions." "I disagree with you," said Dr. Yu gravely. "Mr. Tu is known for his brilliance, and his poems are generally admired. Each time I ask him to write something for me, he reflects credit on me. Besides, I have given 100 taels for this epitaph, but I have kept 20 for my nephew." Yin and Chiyu said no more but took their leave. The next morning, the local authorities sent over a student accused of gambling for Dr. Yu to discipline. Leaving the young man in the gatehouse, the messenger and runners came in. "Where shall we lock him up, sir?" they asked. "Invite him in here," replied Dr. Yu. The student's name was Tuan, and he was from the country. He came in, tears streaming from his eyes, and knelt down on both knees to protest his innocence. "I understand," said Dr. Yu. He lodged the youth in the library, ate at the same table with him, and lent him bedding. The next day he went to the yamen to explain that the young man had been falsely accused and procured his release. The student cut out his thanks. "Though my bones are ground to powder," he declared, "I shall never be able to repay your kindness." "This is a trifle," said Dr. Yu. "Since an injustice was done, it was my duty to clear you." "Yes, but you were good to clear me, sir. But that's not all. When you first brought me here, I was afraid. I didn't know what punishment you would give me, how much money the messenger would demand, or in what wretched place I would be shut up. How could I guess you would treat me like an honored guest, instead of receiving any punishment here? I have had two of the best days in my life. I don't know how to thank you for such great kindness." "You have lost several days over this case," said Dr. Yu. "Don't waste time in unnecessary thanks, but hurry home." The student took his leave. A few days later, the gateman brought in a large red visiting card. On it was written, "Qi Hing Shang, Ma Chun Shang, Qi Wei He Xiao, Chu He Xian Fu, Wu Shu, Yu Ho Sheng, and Tu Xiao Qing wish to pay their respects." "What can this mean?" wondered Dr. Yu. He hurried out to meet his guest. But to know the reason for this call, you must read the next chapter.